Let's ride! Motherfucking Michael Jordan.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? I'm here to do a review today of this camera. I know you guys have been asking me this for a long time, and I haven't done it yet. I like to use things for a little while to really get a feel for them before I give you a full review on it. And I'm ready now to tell you what I think about the GoPro Hero 3 Black Edition. This is how I have it set up right now. This stick out quite a bit, but let's talk about the initial setting up the camera too. We'll go right from the beginning. I liked my cameras on the side. That's how I had my last camera, and it's how I wanted this one too. And there's probably no real way around it. It's something I kind of knew going into it with the GoPro. See how it does definitely stick out to the side there, and it's gonna hit some wind. It's not the worst thing in the world, but I definitely do have to watch it when I look over my my right shoulder, because it will hit my my shoulder blade as I look back there. With the GoPro, instead of with my old drift, you only really had two axes. You can turn the camera this way or this way. Well, this one I figured, oh, this will be even better. You get all three axes here. But the issue I kind of ran into early on is you only have so much. You have very limited movement between these, and if you actually see some of the first videos I did with this, people were telling me I had a ghetto lean going on because I couldn't tilt the camera over enough. In fact, what I had to do is replace one of the adjustable knobs with a screw here, which is fine because once I have it set, I don't really have a reason to move it. But even with this, I'm still sort of out of movement. This is as far over this way as this one can go right now. And the camera actually is still slightly leaning. I'm not getting the angle that I really want out of it. As you can see here, this is actually the mic cable, and I did have to drill a hole through this, which was another sort of pain when I first got it. And I guess I knew that was going to be part of what I was going to have to do with it anyway. You can see right there, you just sort of drill a hole just to the size it needs and no bigger. And I'm sure it's probably still splash proof, no guarantee, but it's more of a pain than I thought it was going to be to get that all set up there. I was hoping they would have some kind of I saw someone, they have the bare minimum housing that they make for these things, but I was hoping they were going to have one like they did for the last GoPro that had actually a small hole right here where you could get into these slots, but that's all you could do. And also with this one, you have to use, they don't have a 3.5mm jack straight in. What you have to do is you have to buy this mini USB to 3.5 converter. Now, I screwed up the first time. I didn't realize there's like a GoPro exact version you have to get. I bought some other brand one, and it actually won't work. It has to be, I guess, their version. I'm not sure, set up for the right kind of pins or whatever. And then, this is actually what I've done right here. This is where it goes into the 3.5. I wish this was a bit longer, so I didn't have to do, the plug was exposed right here, so what I did is I just threw a little electrical tape around to sort of try to help hold it in, and put another small piece of electrical tape right here, and then that runs into the helmet. That's where the mic goes in. And it means when I'm not running the camera, I don't really have a place I can tuck this because it's so much. If it was just a small 3.5, just this thing, I could surely just tuck it back in. But because it's this whole assembly, you're sort of left with that whole thing sticking out there. And also to put this on, you have to make sure you're having also enough clearance for this when you're plugging this in. I actually can't unplug it or plug it in once it's on the helmet, which I guess is sort of nice, but it means I have to actually start with it off, plug this thing in, and then clip it in. The mic I'm running too, I can't remember what it's called, but I'll have a link in the description to the mic I'm using. Because unlike my old drift, the drift you could actually adjust the level of the mic, so you could just run some whatever cheapo brand little lapel mic, and you would turn the sensitivity all the way down, then put it in the cheek pad, which is actually where it is on this one right here. It's right underneath here. Well, because the GoPro doesn't have an option for that, what I actually found out too, after getting the right cable, then I went to install that, then I found out it still wasn't going to work because no matter how much padding you get in here, it was way too sensitive. I actually had to buy the mic that I'm going to tell you about. It should be in the description. And it's a great mic, honestly. Even if you're going to run a drift, you should probably run this mic. It just works so much better. But it is sort of a pain because what you actually have to do is you have a small box you have to turn on and off each time. In fact, I have it right here. So what I have to do is I have basically the cable coming in here, back there into the helmet. It whips all the way up and around. I actually had to cut it too. These things come like 15-foot long cables. That's just how they come. So you got to cut and solder it, or you're gonna have big bundles of cable all up inside the under the padding. And that's what I do. I actually just, when I run all the wiring, because I'm also running the Scarlo over here, the wires, you know, I run them up and make them into little small sections I can and tape them, and then put this bit back down in there. That's the little box. I don't know if it works like a little amp or what exactly it does. I'm not really too sure, but it actually has its own on and off switch. You got to remember to turn on and off each time you go to use this thing. And again, right then, it's probably been on for about 4 days now. I'm sure this battery's dead. I've done that about 10 times now. It's not, I hate having to remember to turn this thing on and off. It's a complete pain in the ass. I do hate this. But, you know, and it takes little watch batteries, and I've had to replace them, like I said, you know, numerous times already, because I'm sure they have decent life when you're actually using them, but because I just keep forgetting to turn them off, that's been an issue for me. But the audio is great, you know. I guess I just need to discipline myself better on that. So, there it is, all set up. Here's the remote they give you. There's a little keychain dealy-doos here, and this actually just clips right into it, which is nice, because then you don't have to have it on you all the time. It's kind of, you know, a bigger key fob piece, so it'd be a pain to have it on you every minute, but there you go, locked it in, and it's in there pretty good now. You know, it's not going to come off. You know, once I have it all set up and ready to go, usually what I'll do is I'll turn the Bluetooth on there. That means the Bluetooth is now on, and if I power this up, they should connect pretty good here, and you'll actually get the same display that's showing on here onto here. And see, it's searching for it right now, and still searching for it. Oh, I got the beep. No SD card. Yep, that's correct. But you can actually, you know, just like, you know, you can go through all the menu modes and all that stuff. You know, it's a slight delay, but that's expected. That's how that works. You know, I found these menus actually not that hard to operate. I was thinking they would be, especially coming from the drift. You know, with such a big, colorful screen. And I've never even had to look at a manual on the drift. And I was sort of worried about these because I knew these GoPros in past models have been somewhat of a pain in the butt. But this one, it's actually not too bad. It's hard to beat the user friendliness of that big screen on the drift, but this does okay. You know, it's totally doable. Usually, like I said, I'll ride around with the thing sitting in standby, and I will just simply go. You know, I'll pop it on when I want to record. You can see how much time you've been recording. I'll pop it off when I'm done, and that's, you know, it's been pretty simple to use in that aspect. The picture has been fucking phenomenal. You know, it's hard to argue with the picture that the GoPro brings. It's you know, it's such overkill, honestly, you know, but quite often I record in the 2.7K mode and then down it back to a 1080 when rendering, so you pretty much just max out the 1080p file, and it looks really good. I do enjoy it. I think it does look great. You know, this camera also can go from light to dark so easily. You know, it doesn't have it doesn't take a long time to adjust. It even at night riding, you know, there's no, like with the drift, you have to go in there and put it in night mode, and it just really didn't work very well. But, you know, with this, it just works great. And by the way, I'm talking about an old drift stealth, you know, not the new one. I can't speak for the new one, and as far as footage I've seen, it looks like it works pretty good, but it looks like they've made numerous improvements to it. But for this camera, I can tell you it does do great night footage. So it all sounds pretty good, right? You know, you think this is all in all sounds like it's a pretty good deal, but honestly, it's been sort of a pain in the ass. You know, that super high quality, great footage it records in is all pretty worthless when it does things like corrupt video files and just quits communicating. I've had it corrupt files just randomly in the middle, like, you know, you'll have a file and just for some reason it won't work. I've also had it where if the battery dies while it's in the middle of recording, or the SD card runs out of memory, it loses the last file. Now that's like, you know, cheap camera 101 shit right there. You know, that's stuff that you do not expect out of anything that's remotely high quality. And I can't believe that this does that. And it's been doing it numerous times. I have the newest firmware, and I've tried, you know, different different SD cards. And they're all high end. You know, I'm not using some fucking class 3 card in this thing. I'm using what it needs. You know, I'm using good shit in this thing. So it shouldn't be doing anything weird like that. It shouldn't be having any kind of issues. Also, this thing likes to break up files. Somewhere around 11 minutes I found when I'm recording in 2.7K, but it depends on what mode I'm recording in. I think it has to do with file size. It'll break them into 2 files or 3 files or how long it needs to break them down into. Well, I mean, I guess I'm not really sure what the benefit to that is, you know. They're sure there is one, but the problem I get is between the files, there's almost always a minimum, a small little audio blip, but they're pretty much good, you know. They did actually make them work pretty good most of the time. But occasionally, I get some pretty big gaps between footage. And if you're in the middle of a vlog and you're saying something that needs to be said or something's happening in front of you, you don't want a 3-4 second gap between the next clip. And it's not supposed to do that, from what I understand. It's supposed to be, you know, perfect for putting them together. There should be no dropped frame from the 2 files. And I either get that where it's right on with a small little audio blip, which I guess is doable. I don't really like it, but I guess it's doable. Or I get this like gap of about 4 seconds, you know. 4 seconds you could fucking crash, who knows, something crazy could happen. Bitches could be set on fire, and you don't get, 4 seconds is gone. So it really kind of disappoints me when it does that. The other thing this thing seems to love to do is absolutely devour batteries. When I bought this thing, I bought a second battery for it, because I assume you should just always have at least one more, but I can't even go out and ride for more than about an hour and a half without killing both batteries. They just absolutely go to shit so fast. It's like they're these little cubes, and it's almost like the fucking things of it's like it's a damn fat kid eating sugar cubes. It fucking just destroys them, man. I cannot believe how fast this thing runs the battery down. To compare it to my old Drift Stealth, that thing, I remember when I went on this trip to the Ozarks, I bought 3 batteries for it, thinking, all right, hopefully I can, if I charge all 3, I should be able to get through a whole day of recording while riding. I would only barely get into the second battery by the end of the day. I did not even need a third battery at all. On top of that, this remote seems to be trying to kill them just as fast as the camera does. It's almost just as ridiculous. And a lot of people said, well, that's because you're running the Wi-Fi all the time. You shouldn't have to run the Wi-Fi. Well, I mean, that's how the remote is. If the remote has to absolutely suck the power down, then it shouldn't work in Wi-Fi. Maybe they should have a mode you can put in that doesn't use the screen or something and just has the red flashing light. My old Drift had a remote, and it only made a noise. It was hard to know if you were recording or not. This gives you this sweet display, but that's really not necessary. All I really need is the flashing light. I think the new Ghost Stealth has it right with just putting lights down the side. That way you can tell it's recording. It's nice to have the display, but if it's going to destroy the batteries like that, then it's not worth it. The display here and on here, when it's dark out, you can't see them. I find myself looking for like street lights or trying to tilt this thing up to get onto the illumination from the dash light, and it doesn't always work. You can't always get it to do what you want to do. It sometimes ends up in really weird modes. Try to use the one start, where you just start it and it records, the 1-button start, and that doesn't always work either. Sometimes it ends up in really weird modes and stuff. Sometimes you think you're recording and it turns out you're not. Also, I've had this thing a couple times, and you've noticed if you saw my last video, the audio gets out of sync of the video. Now, the only reason you really could have noticed on the last one is I didn't catch it till it was online. I don't know, I edited that thing while I was half awake, but normally I can tell, like, damn it, it's done that thing again. The audio is slightly off from the video. You'll have to, go in there and do a bunch of adjustments and that, stuff to try to get it just right. And then later in the video, it's like it's right on. So I don't understand why it's doing that either. Setup's harder to do than, let's say, in my old Drift. Operating it's a little bit more difficult. The cool features it does have, like using this remote and stuff, it's not really worth it if it's having to just, like I said, destroy the batteries. I can't trust it. That's the worst part. I just feel like I can't trust this thing. If I go out and I go riding all day, I can't trust that I'm gonna be able to keep filming all day. With my old $160 shipped Drift, that wasn't an issue, And when you're paying, $400 for this camera, I expect a lot more than I got from my old Drift. If anything, this, other than being able to record a whole lot better quality, has nothing over my old camera setup that I had on here, which is pretty piss poor, For me, I gotta have a camera that's gonna be completely solid. If I go out and ride, I'm doing my thing, it's gotta be able to just, turn on and work. It's simple, you know. It can have the greatest picture all at once, but if it's not going to be reliable, if I got to worry about batteries running out, if I got to worry about corrupted files, it's not worth it. This remote too, half the time, I don't know, it's like they get disconnected or something, but I'll be clicking the buttons on here and nothing is happening. There's just no response, or it's telling me it's still recording, and in fact it's not recording. And that is like the worst thing you could be doing. This camera's already ruined several videos I was making, and where I thought I was recording and thought it was working, and then boom, it just turns out, I wasn't filming at all. Or the remote says I was filming and I actually wasn't. Also, I thought it would be really interesting the deal where you can hook it up to a smartphone like my iPhone, and I've tried it a few times, but the annoying thing is because it runs through Wi-Fi, you have to connect to a Wi-Fi network. This thing basically, I guess, is acting like it's a modem, So you connect your phone to it, and then you can open the app, and the app's a little bit delayed, but that's fine. I would expect that, But it's cool because you can go in there and change all the settings. It's a pretty cool application. I think the biggest problem with it, though, is that it goes through this Wi-Fi connection. So before you can even open the app up, you got to go into your settings, switch to this Wi-Fi network that doesn't have, it's not a real network, honestly, because there's no internet. Because there's no internet, your phone becomes pretty inoperable. These phones nowadays need to have an internet connection. Everything works through this, internet, for the 3G, 4G, Wi-Fi, whatever. So the whole time you have your phone in this mode, just so you can run this app, it doesn't work. You can't. You're really screwing up your phone. And it's a pain. You got to go into the settings when you're done again with it too. And if you're sitting here with the remote and you go, let me see what you're sitting here out filming, and you have it set to the remote, and you go, oh, let me see what I just filmed, and pull my phone out of my pocket, no big deal. Well, you got to go through here, switch the mode, and hopefully it's switched over. It's a big pain, man. It's so much easier if you could just watch. And I know they have backpacks on the back where you can add even more junk to this thing and have a screen on the back. It looks like you could also have a battery. I think they make a bigger battery. I don't know if they make it yet. I think they're probably going to. I'm sure they do by now. But for all that trouble, it's just not worth it to me. The only problem I had with my old Drift really was that just the picture wasn't that great, and it didn't like low light conditions at all. I really wanted to upgrade to the Ghost, but what happened was the reason I have this whole camera set up right here, right now, today, this big refrigerator sticking off the side, is because right before I went to make that zombie video with McMoto Man, I accidentally snapped the mic sitting in the back of the Drift. Now, the old Drifts, you had to keep the back door open on it, and it had this weird mic that was a really odd plug-in, and I accidentally had the helmet. I was holding it kind of like this, and I racked it back and snapped that thing. So what happened was, I had to buy a new mic. Well, they discontinued that mic, and I could not find that mic at all. So in a last-minute effort thing, I ran up to Best Buy and just picked one of these up. That's how I ended up doing that. And it took me all night just to get this thing set up correctly, and it never was set up correctly. I never had the right piece here or the right mic. So while I was doing that, I actually had to use the Scarlett here and an app on my phone to record audio. It was just a complete pain in the ass. And the audio is really garbage on that video, and that's why. But that's how I ended up with this camera. And again, like I said, for the money I've spent on this thing, I'm just not impressed. I have this new helmet right here, and I haven't even attached it to yet. This is my new RHOK helmet, and the reason you haven't been seeing me vlogging with this thing is just simply because I don't want to attach one of these mounts to the side and then have it on there, and I might be switching setups, and I'm very, very much considering, going with maybe a Drifter or the new Ghost or something else, And if I don't want to put one of these little brackets and not be able to get it back off. Again, I listened to all the hype. I listened to all the fanboys that told me, GoPros are so awesome, GoPro this, GoPro that, and I'm just not seeing it. This is probably I think the old Hero 2s were probably a lot better than this. Of course, the Hero 2s also had that problem where they would just not work it. Where if you had a wreck or a big bang, they corrupted the file. And I know I crashed my old Drift, and it was fine. I'm not going to go try crash this one to see if it'll work or not work. But if it's corrupting while I'm just driving around, I don't have much faith in it in a big accident to keep working. And it's not just me. There's a lot of people out there that have been having problems with this camera, so it's not like I just have some dud, When I originally was thinking about doing a review of this camera and talking all about it, I was actually talking to Accidental Broadcast, and I asked him if he wanted to be a part of it. We're actually going to have a cutaway scene where he was going to be riding around and just explaining all the technical whatnots about this camera that I don't really know. But if you guys have noticed, you haven't seen a video from Accidental in like a real riding video in probably almost over a month, because his has been broke, if you've been keeping up with it on his Facebook. And they just, that's the other issue too, is the company's so large, I guess they just can't, they don't have enough customer support to match all their to match their business and the issues that they've been having. So, I don't even know if he's got a working camera still yet. I know that was well over a month ago. So wanted this thing to work. I so wanted this to be a good camera, and it's just been disappointing, So yeah, I may end up buying a different camera. I may end up going with a drift. As good as my old drift worked, I would expect the Ghost to do everything my old one did plus more. And if it sacrifices anything, I'm not going to be happy with that either. But it might be a better bet than this still. And I'm sure let you guys know if I get one of those. And fuck you for making me piss so many times. I hate you. You suck.
Vader, bitch, we put you back together like Darth Vader.